Welcome back to another episode of Trash Talk. I'm John Bernard. This is Nick. We are the Kairouz Bros, giving you the combat sports news around the world. Nick, let's get straight into it because we're still having depression after Alex Pereira lost. There's been a lot of topic discussion about Topuria and where he's going to land, who he's going to fight. So let's get straight into our UFC hot take of the week. Now, the hot take of this week is current UFC champions right now are the most boring ever.
Well, if you look at the current slate of champions, Pantoja, very boring. Merab, you could say is entertaining, but inside the octagon, pretty boring. Topuria, not a champion anymore. Islam, very entertaining. I'll give Islam his flowers. Bilal, decision merchant, very boring.
DDP.
I'd say he's entertaining. Ankalaev, very boring. I think he's been copping shit all week
And
grappling against the cage. Extremely boring.
John Jones is must watch. So out of the champions, you said two are not boring, Islam and John Jones.
And then you got to say about John Jones, one fight left. Is he going to fight? He might retire, so he doesn't really count as a champion.
And he fights
Ilya
once a
doesn't
year.
either.
He fights once a year. But look, I don't want to disrespect any fighters and saying you're boring. You're talking about their fighting style and most likely as well, the way that they promote the fights. Like Bilal, as much as you want to see his fights and you want to see a Leon rematch, he just doesn't do enough to sell the fights, and he's got this reputation online that he's just very boring.
Well, the thing is, when you've got Pantoja, Bilal, and Ankalaev as division champions, 3 divisions are just boring. They can't sell a fight. Their fighting style is not the greatest.
Yeah, but who would you replace in those divisions? Like Merab, for example. Is Sugar Sean that much more entertaining?
No,
I feel like Merab does a better job online just being a personality.
I think the online hate for this, though, is a bit uncalled for because these guys deserve to be champions. They've obviously gotten on a lot of win streaks. I think the current champions, all of them are undefeated since 2021. Every single champion has not lost a fight. So these are the best fighters in the world. They definitely deserve their championships. To say they're boring, though, I think it's more of just they've beaten their favorite fighters.
Yeah.
Like Pereira fans hate Ankalaev. They're calling him boring because he beat Pereira.
DDP beating Strickland, beating Adesanya.
Topuria beat Max Holloway, beat Volkanovski. They're just beating their old fan favorites. This is maybe a new guard of champions, new guard of fighters that are representing the UFC.
I feel like everyone online's got to take it easy on the boring. Topuria can't be classed as boring. To knock out 2 legends, you're not boring.
Even Islam.
Even DDP, like, say what you want. The guy's got an unorthodox fighting style. He hasn't put on a non-entertaining fight. The fights have all been entertaining. He choked out, Israel Adesanya. He beat Sean Strickland.
He's gotten finishes. He's been fighting extremely well.
So take it easy on the boring.
And John Jones, Islam, they're 2 of the most followed people in the UFC. I think they're both, among active fighters, they're top 2, top 3.
Yeah.
So people want to watch them fight. And then when you go to Ilya, they want to see him fight Islam. Everyone's wanting to see his next fight. So there's definitely champions. And Merab, his skits are hilarious. He's an entertaining guy. I think people underestimate the value that he has in the UFC. But I don't know. Do you think, though, that these guys will be champions for much longer?
Yeah,
Does the UFC want them to lose their titles?
Depending on the division, like Pantoja and Merab not losing their belts anytime soon. Ilya just relinquished his title. He says he wants to go conquer another division. Islam could retire undefeated if he wants to. He's going
to welterweight as well.
So, again, I don't see... Ankalaev, probably the most boring of everyone in there. And yes, he outlanded Pereira, but I'm saying in terms of fight promotion, the guy doesn't speak English.
Yeah.
He's boring. He just wants to be there. It's his dream. But again, he just can't promote a fight. And, I'm not the biggest fan of his wrestling Dagestani style.
Well, he's a bit of a striker now.
I would say he's a striker, but there was a lot of cage control and a lot of clinching that just resulted into nothing. So I'm not a fan of that style personally.
I know we did this at the start of the year, but different sort of question. Who would you want to be champion in these divisions at the end of the year?
Mate, leave Merab in there. Leave Merab there. Maybe Kaya Sakura for that Japanese audience.
He's not getting anywhere near a title
I
shot.
personally don't even care. I want Ilya to dethrone Islam. I think that would make for a much entertaining division, and it would let Islam go up and really disrupt the welterweight division. So I would say Ilya winning the lightweight and Islam going up and winning welterweight.
I'm happy with DDP. DDP's fun.
You know why DDP's great? He's the best trash talker in the UFC. Doesn't care who it's aimed at. If you're not in his division talking shit, he'll go at you. If you're Drake, he'll go at you. He's great for promotion. And I would say, give me Tom Aspinall, John Jones. Either Tom Aspinall or John Jones.
Okay, and then last one is Khamzat. Is he a boring champion because he wrestles, or would he be entertaining?
No way. He doesn't need to sell his fights. The guy's frightening. And he's entertaining because no one's been able to withstand that wrestle, that pressure from the first round, except Kamaru Usman. So, being the boogeyman, he would be a more frightening boogeyman than Shavkat is in his division. Does that make sense?
I don't like to use the word aura, but Khamzat does have an aura that he does sell fights just strictly by being himself. Doesn't have to
100%.
say much, doesn't have to do much. People just want to see him fight. They want to see him go in there and smash everybody, kill everybody.
Well, let's move on to the next topic. Conor McGregor is not coming back to the octagon anytime soon. He's too busy at the White House. He was just Donald Trump's guest in the Oval Office. He gave a speech to the press in the press room. Nick, Conor McGregor's doing a lot of side quests. I didn't have him at the White House on the bingo card for 2025.
Everyone talks about all these things happening before we got GTA 6. We got Conor McGregor in the White House before GTA 6, and we got Conor McGregor in the White House before Conor McGregor in the octagon. This is absurd. Like, there's no way this is happening. Like, it's a made-up reality.
He was fielding questions about Ireland and what he wants for Ireland. He's saying Ireland's kind of, not for the people anymore. And he's been commenting on US politics as well. Donald Trump was happy to have him in there. And if there's anyone that understands Conor McGregor's situation right now, it's Donald Trump. You're talking about
allegations.
A guy that's a felon that's been, voted into the US presidency. So, it was St. Patrick's Day. He was wearing green. Is a fitting guest to have in the Oval Office. Was he entertaining? Were the sniffer dogs probably sniffing him a lot on the way in for any substances? Probably happened. But I like seeing more of Conor McGregor. And if he's coming to the octagon, I hope it's soon, but it doesn't look like it anytime soon.
Well, Donald Trump kind of gave a preview, said Conor McGregor is one of my favorite fighters, most entertaining fighter.
Loves his tattoos.
Conor McGregor returned the compliments, said his work ethic is unbelievable. And he said the US is Ireland's older brother, Ireland being the little brother, they got to help him out. But this has just further put into people's mind that Conor McGregor's never returning. Charles Oliveira came out and said, to be honest, and I quote, to be honest, I don't know why people are still talking about Conor McGregor. He's done everything he's wanted to do in the sport, and now he's choosing to live his life the way he wants to live it.
And he's 1,000% right. He has no inclination or incentive to come back to the UFC. Well, for another big money fight. I don't think he's running that much, running that low on cash. He's a big investor in BKFC, and I feel like that's going to pay dividends for him down the line. He's got his whiskey. I know he might not be in that anymore, but he got paid out for it. He's got his record label that he has in Ireland. He employs over 300 people in Ireland, he was trying to say. And again, he was getting attacked by the media that, the Irish Prime Minister or the Irish President came out and said he shouldn't be speaking on Irish people. He should be ashamed of himself. And he said, listen, I can hurl out a lot of jabs to this bloke, but I won't. I'll keep it professional. He's not representing the Irish people. And it looks like we're going to get politician Conor McGregor sooner than we get UFC fighter Conor McGregor.
I still think he's going to come back. I know Charles Oliveira is saying fans should forget about him. Michael Chandler should lose all hope that he's going to fight him. But I still feel like it's just something that he has to fulfill in his life. He has to have that one big return. And if you're thinking John Jones, possibly 30 mil for a return, what are you prepared to pay Conor McGregor for a return? 50 mil? It'll be the highest grossing pay-per-view ever.
Similar ballpark, 30, 35 million.
He's way more of a draw than John Jones.
Conor kind of put to his Twitter and said that he's been paid more than all combined UFC purses in the last couple of UFCs. In his last UFC fight, and he was talking about the Pereira fight, the purses. He was also talking about the $30 million tag of John Jones, saying that he got paid way more than that, whether it was Floyd or whether it was his last UFC fight. So, again, the guy is a pay-per-view draw. Everyone will tune in. He knows how to promote his own fights. It just, will it ever happen? And I feel like UFC keeps dragging it out, maybe towards the end of this ESPN deal, because when they go to shop around to Netflix or they shop around to Amazon, they go, hey, we've got a Conor McGregor come back.
We got one Conor McGregor.
We got a massive pay-per-view draw that is next in line. So I don't know. It's not like he's getting any younger, but people will still tune in no matter how old he is.
Okay, but now talking about lightweights, Charles Oliveira. Is everyone in the lightweight division ducking Ilia Topuria? Because both Islam and Charles Oliveira this week have said they do not want to face Ilia Topuria.
I won't say ducking. I think they're frightened of the prospect of another guy coming up and taking their position. Charles basically said that he doesn't want another guy taking his position as the number one contender. Him and Arman have already fought that out, and he's saying Ilya has to earn the title or go get the title, and then I will face
Well,
you.
he said he's got a higher ranking, he's a former champion, and there's no way that he should leapfrog him. And I understand that, but how can you assume, how can you say, I'm only going to face Ilya when he's the champion?
Yeah.
So you're assuming that he's going to leapfrog you and face Islam?
And then there's a narrative online that Islam is ducking him. Now, personally, I don't think Islam's ever ducked anyone. He's said yes to Volkanovski twice. He took Moicano on 2 days' notice. And like I said, the quote that he lives by is, what does this title represent? It means you're the best in the world. And if you're the best in the world, it doesn't matter who is standing across from you. What do I say? No, never. Let's do this.
Well, it seems as though that quote applies to absolutely everybody except Ilia Topuria.
Well, again, his team is saying that Ilya's got to face someone in the division before he gets to face him.
Is that his team saying it, or is that Islam saying it? Because
Well,
if they're
you
representing Islam, that's him saying it.
If you live by that quote, Islam, you have to say yes to Ilia Topuria. If the UFC come to you and say, we want you to face Ilya, by that quote, you have to say yes. But in saying that, I kind of feel for Islam. You know why? Because if he faces Ilia Topuria and beats him, you just beat another featherweight. You know, look what happened when he faced Volkanovski. The first fight was tough, faced him again, knocked him out. You just beat another featherweight.
Yeah, but
hey,
if that's
you
the
took
fight...
Moicano on 2 days' notice. Yeah, no one expected him to win. You beat Dustin Poirier. Yeah, he's old and he's on his last legs in the division. It's always a lose-lose for Islam. Everyone wants to face him, and it's up to him to say yes or no. And then when he says yes, it's like, but it's just this. Obviously, his biggest test right now is Arman Tsarukyan. Arman pulled out of the fight. What do you want Islam to do?
I don't blame Islam, but if that's the fight to make and that's the fight that the fans want, and then he's on top of that said this quote, you kind of have to face him. You can't, at least at worst, you can't come out and say, no, he has to fight and earn it.
And the way the way Ilia Topuria has phrased it is, it's almost already a done deal. You'll be surprised when it gets announced. And if I'm assuming it has to be the Islam fight. There's no bigger fight in the UFC for Ilia Topuria than the Islam fight. There's no one really that makes sense for him to face in the lightweight division.
Well, they've said that he could face Arman Tsarukyan, but I don't know if it's Arman that says he doesn't want to fight him or Ilia doesn't want to fight Arman.
I mean, Arman is the number one contender right now, and they're talking about a rematch with Charles Oliveira. Why would you want to risk having to face Ilia Topuria, potentially losing your number one contender status in the division? It doesn't make any sense. If I'm Charles Oliveira, you're 100% right. Why would I want to? I'm next in line. Why would I give a featherweight a shot when my ranking is higher? It doesn't make any sense. If you had the belt, 100%, I would take you up on that challenge. You don't have the belt. You're nothing in this division. Establish yourself.
But I've been to the Apex, and I've seen Islam's quote on the wall. People were saying, you got to take that quote down off the wall if he's not going to fight Ilia Topuria, which I think is a bit harsh, because you don't actually even know if Islam said this. There's no direct quote from his mouth. But if he is saying that he doesn't want to fight Ilia, I understand it.
It's always the case. And I think he's eventually going to say yes, and we're going to get this super fight. But again, if he wins, it's going to be you're just another featherweight on your resume. So that's why I think he's eyeing that welterweight, that welterweight fight. And he's waiting to see what will happen with Bilal. But again, it's you after that fight on 2 days' notice and getting done in one round, it's like you need to be active because, you're such a great champion that people want to see you active. I don't want to see you fight twice this year, especially when you just beat Moicano in one round and didn't break a sweat.
The way I would book the lightweight division, I'd have Islam versus Charles rematch as the next fight for the champion. I'd have Arman versus Justin Gaethje, number one contender eliminator. And then Ilia Topuria's got to verse someone like Dan Hooker or, Dustin Poirier, someone in that top 5, top 6 range to really earn a title shot. I think that's fair and makes the most sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not opposed to Ilia just cutting the line, but in saying that, you're right. How would it feel if you're Arman Tsarukyan, you've been working your whole career to get to this earned shot?
And Charles Oliveira has earned a rematch. Yes, he pulled out with the cut above his eye, but he still does deserve a rematch.
We've seen crazier things in the UFC. I mean, if you look at the flyweight division, you see a rank 7 Steve Erceg get a title shot. You've seen a Kaya Sakura come from a completely different promotion, get a title shot. You've seen Khalil Roundtree, ranked number 7, face Alex Pereira for a title. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Ilya gets a shot, but it's just, does he deserve it, and is it fair to everyone else in the division? Because Justin Gaethje's also putting his hand up as well.
Okay, but staying on Islam Makhachev, he took to social media and showed a Spanish kid take up his offer and do the 2 to 3 years in Dagestan and forget.
Everyone's been doing the memes online, just shave the mo and go to 2-3 years Dagestan and forget. But this Spanish kid has actually done it. He's gone to Dagestan. Islam's gone on social media. He's videoed him. He's put him on his story and he said, where you from? Where you from? I'm from Spain. How long you come here? 2-3 years Dagestan. This kid is committed. He wants to be the next Dagestani wrestling champion.
He wants high-level wrestling and he's committed the next 2 to 3 years of his life. So whether you think it's a meme or not, people are taking Islam up on his offer.
And he's training there. I mean, Islam just put a video up of him trying his new submission on him. This kid is going to go through all the regimented training that Daniel Cormier has spoken about of what goes on in Dagestan. It's flexibility sessions. It's training 2-3 times a day, wrestling and every single technique in a sweatbox down there in Dagestan. But what also happened was we saw this kid in a photo with Ilia Topuria. So he's also trained at Ilia Topuria's gym. And now everyone's questioning, is this kid a mole?
Well, this was the biggest plot twist ever. So this video goes viral, this Spanish kid somehow making it to Dagestan, training with Islam. And then a couple hours later, the internet does what it does. And there's a photo of him and Ilia Topuria. Now, you can look at this one of two ways. Is it a mole for Ilia Topuria?
He's a plant by Ilia.
Or is this high-level strategy by Team Islam bringing in someone that's trained with Ilia Topuria because they know they're going to fight Ilia Topuria and this is the best way to get ready for him?
I don't know with these Dagestanis. They've had some tricks before. I know they've done some similar things in terms of people in their training camp. Remember with Shavkat and Shavkat's guy?
Yeah, trying to get into the head of, what's his name? They had him in the crowd trying to taunt him.
Yeah,
getting
it
in his
wasn't
head.
Ian. It was
Marab. It was taunting Marab.
It was taunting Marab ahead of Umar. So they have their own tricks, these Dagestanis, and they can't be trusted either. But I think this is a play from Ilia Topuria. This is what people are saying online is he sent us a Spanish kid over, learn what you can on this Dagestani wrestling, bring it back to El Matador, and this is our best chance of beating Islam.
Well, the thing with that, though, is I think once this photo did surface of him with Ilia Topuria, Islam then took this kid and put him through the ropes, absolutely bullied him.
Yeah.
You put up a video of him just snatching his face, making him so uncomfortable.
He's trialing his new choke on him. But maybe that's just the standard over in Dagestan. That is, you get thrown into the fire. It's sink or swim in that gym.
That was straight bullying. It was straight bullying.
It's nice to see it's not just memes online. It's not just guys shaving their mo and then jumping on a plane with the Dagestan song in the background. This kid is actually living out his dream. He wants high-level wrestling. He's going to spend 2-3 years there and forget.
What do you think, though? What's the customs and border situation? Is a visa on arrival in Russia for most places? I don't like. Does Team Islam?
When they go to stamp your passport, are you saying, "Listen, I'm just here to get high-level wrestling. I'm only going to be here 2-3 years"?
Is there like
Islam's put the invitation out?
Is there a specific 2 to 3 year visa that you can apply for? Like I'm here for Dagestani wrestling.
Dagestani wrestling visa.
Like, can you stamp my passport? I got a specific 2 to 3 year visa, like a student visa, but wrestling.
It's a Dagestani wrestling visa. Well, this kid's taken up on it. I think we're just going to coin that term. You can go to Dagestan and Russia on a Dagestani wrestling visa. This kid's done it. So,
hey, I'll sign up. I need to do some high level wrestling.
Let's move on. Alex Pereira has been spoken about a lot, but we're going to go out and say it. This is what DDP thinks of Alex Pereira. Pereira has lost his aura and has cost him the biggest payday of his life.
He's cost DDP the biggest payday of his life, and that's because DDP, if he did get past Khamzat, did have an opportunity to go up to light heavyweight and face Alex Pereira. But now that Alex Pereira is not champion, I don't think people want to see Ankalaev versus DDP.
Well, DDP put out the reaction to his fight. He was watching Ankalaev versus Pereira, and he had the shits. He didn't like what he was seeing. He said, "Thank you, Ankalaev, because you just cost me the biggest payday of my life." Pereira's lost his aura. Then Jackson Adoherty, friend of DDP, said,
Australian.
"Well, you know what? If Alex Pereira smokes him in the rematch, this super fight between you and Alex Pereira can be on. DDP versus Pereira can still be on." He says, "No, it's not. It's off." He goes, "He's lost his aura. I'm sorry. Ankalaev has just shown that Alex Pereira is human. And this payday that I was teasing since UFC 313, I'm going to go handle my business. Pereira, you go handle yours." Pereira didn't handle his business. He's lost his aura, and DDP doesn't want that matchup anymore.
I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want the matchup. Like, it's still a big, high-level superstar, big following, big payday.
Yeah.
I mean, if he does beat Ankalaev in a rematch, I would definitely take that fight. I feel like he's just trying to assert, I don't know, a level of like, I'm better than this. I don't need this anymore.
Well, also, he's got a lot of work to do himself. If Khamzat is next for him, you could lose your aura as well, DDP.
Yeah, very easily as well.
You've got a lot to do before you're calling for a super fight as well.
DDP, you're facing the boogeyman. He is actually unsolvable.
And not just of your division. I think within the whole UFC, he's a boogeyman of 3 divisions.
Like, he could easily go back down to welterweight, win a title. He could win the title at middleweight. He could go up to light heavyweight and win a title. Khamzat could be a 3-division champion, something that Alex Pereira was supposed to do, but now obviously will never do. So Khamzat is that guy. He's that guy. So I wouldn't be looking past him. I wouldn't be that person that says, "Oh, I'm not going to go up to light heavyweight anymore."
And I don't think he is looking past him, but he's just disappointed at the fact that this Pereira fight has lost some steam. It gained a lot of traction after UFC Sydney, UFC 312, and everyone was talking with Pereira in Strickland's corner, and he's eyeing him out, and he said, DDP is just a little bit too small. It's too small for me.
Yeah, but if Alex Pereira does win the rematch, and you do get past Khamzat, say these two hypotheticals do happen.
The fight is on.
The fight is on because what? You want to face Imavov instead of Alex Pereira? Like you're going
to weigh it up and you say which is going to be most payday, which is going to be the best fight promotion. And the fight is still on, but is he not? He's not wrong in saying Pereira lost a little bit of aura.
Who's the
it
guy-
wasn't the Pereira we knew in that fight, and DDP watching it, his live reaction was he was disappointed. He saw Pereira just kind of lost that star power a little bit.
Like, who's he going to fight, though? Like, outside of, like, you're going to rematch Sean Strickland again? No. Alex Pereira is the new fight. It's something that you could go for a 2-division champion.
He even suggested he goes, maybe got to come back down to middleweight.
That would say, hey,
Yeah.
I thought that's initially what was going to happen. But then when you see, like, the UFC embedded of Alex Pereira cutting weight, he's like, man, how the fuck did I cut to middleweight? How did I do this? Because he's struggling to cut to light heavyweight. Which then you think of it,
He's big man.
Pereira is massive.
Huge guy.
How the hell did he ever cut down to middleweight? It's actually an anomaly.
I don't know. I think with DDP, you're right. There's not much pay-per-view draw in his division. I mean, with Adesanya recently losing, it's like Imavov isn't going to be a massive payday for him. Strickland's got a lot of work to do. Paulo Costa in that division, I feel like
Rob Whittaker's kind of finished.
Whittaker's eyeing facing Sean Strickland. So it's like there needs to be some new contenders in the middleweight division. I mean, Rob Whittaker's talking about moving up to light heavyweight. So it's like, you know, this division does need a spark.
Rob Whittaker, don't do that.
And
Don't
Pereira,
do that.
Pereira, I think, is the next fight for him, whether he lost to Ankalaev or not. So it does make a lot of sense. But speaking of Alex Pereira, let's move on to this topic. Tristan Tate, one half of the Tate brothers. We don't think we're going to be able to put this out on TikTok because they're banned on TikTok. But Tristan Tate has pretty much said that these high-level security guards of these world leaders like Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin would be much high-level strikers and all-round killers compared to UFC fighters like Tom Aspinall.
Well, this discussion started because I think Tristan Tate was on X, or he shared a video on X of Vladimir Putin's security guard and Xi Jinping's security guard nodding at each other, acknowledging each other.
Let's acknowledge each other in the clips, like, yes.
We've all
hey,
seen this clip, and they've all said, they said the male,
Yeah.
we acknowledge you.
We're making sure everything's all good and we could kill each other if we wanted.
Then in the chat, someone asked Tristan Tate, do you think UFC interim champion Tom Aspinall could defeat these bodyguards?
And he responded, with respect to Aspinall, I wouldn't bet on that. These guys won't strike or go for submissions. They're dirty. Throat, groin, eyes. They're trained killers, not trained fighters. You think they train less than Tom Aspinall? You think they aren't constantly drilling and perfecting kill techniques? No. These are not the overweight nightclub heavies that bodyguard celebrities. They are an entirely different class of human being.
Is Tristan Tate right?
Listen, I mean, they're not Secret Service, but I'm saying to be the personal bodyguard of a world leader, you got to be a trained killer. And I think to your general UFC fighter, you know, he's not wrong, but that's not to say Tom Aspinall's not a trained killer.
I'm saying if Tom Aspinall was Vladimir Putin's security guard, no one in the right mind would ever try and attack him. And I'm looking at this clip, I'm looking at these security guards. They look like they're maybe middleweights, light heavyweights at best. Tom Aspinall would dwarf these guys, and if they ever got into any physical encounter with him, Tom Aspinall could kill them. You got to remember.
But Tristan's saying they're not training for submissions and, you know, ground control and jiu-jitsu. They're training to kill you.
Yeah, okay.
And they don't, and right, he's saying this point in time, right now, this guy would kill Tom Aspinall.
Yeah, okay,
So
but
I think that's a fair argument. But you say you give Tom Aspinall the opportunity to train like a killer, then there you got a different argument. You got a different argument.
You give Tom Aspinall the opportunity to kill somebody, he could do it. Let's look at his last fight against Curtis Blades. The only reason Curtis Blades is not dead is because the referee stopped the fight. If he wanted to kill Curtis Blades, he could keep punching away and then kill him.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
And he could do that to anyone in the general population.
Yes, I'm saying, like, the only reason that Tom Aspinall doesn't kill people is because he refrains himself from it.
Who is the better killer? Is it Vladimir Putin's security guard or is it Tom Aspinall? And at this point in time, based on their training, it's the security guard.
No.
It is.
No way. Okay, we're saying
They're
no
trained.
weapons. No weapons.
I think they're doing techniques that Tom Aspinall is not doing.
Well, they're
right
going to
now.
pinch him and he's going to
Mate,
fall
they
asleep
got
and
some,
die.
like you said, they're going throat, groin, eyes. Now, I don't know if Tristan Tate knows something we don't know, but he's saying their training techniques are a lot
Listen,
different.
unless there's guns or knives involved, okay, maybe you can give the edge to these security guards because they're a bit more well-versed in that style of equipment.
That's what I'm saying.
But if it's just straight hands only, this is a physical fist fight, and you can use whatever technique of MMA that you like, Tom Aspinall would kill them. He would maul them. This is not even a question.
Yeah, I'm not discounting that Tom Aspinall doesn't know how to kill someone, like, you know, kicking him in the balls or something. You know, like he's got some strikes in his thing that he'd be able to do it. I I don't disagree with Tristan Tate. I think these guys are high-level security guards for a reason.
Okay, I think maybe
You don't believe in the movies, the CIA agents in movies, the John Wicks?
Bro, have you seen like
These guys aren't the John Wicks of real life?
Sometimes females like Scarlett Johansson are fighting, men that are 300 kilos heavier than them. That's impossible. The male strength would never let that happen. So these guys, yes, they're big, yes, they're trained, but they would never be able to fight Tom Aspinall, a trained killer, a trained fighter, the heavyweight champion. It's not happening. Tristan Tate, you're off your head.
I'm not disagreeing with him. I believe in some movie aspects that there's some trained killers out there. There's some Jason Bournes in the real world that could probably take down a Tom Aspinall. And like he said, with respect to Tom Aspinall. Now, Tom Aspinall can go train and be like one of these guys for sure, but he's not one of them right now. So I agree with Tristan Tate in this regard.
I mean, if you've got Tom Aspinall running at you 100 miles an hour, ready to spear tackle you, then ground and pound you, what training is going to prepare you for that?
These guys, man, it's a specialty. These guys are specialized in area awareness, planning, how to be a human shield, how to best kill someone in a certain situation. It's just a whole different. It's not. I'm trying to win on points here. It's not. I'm just trying to get a finish, Nick.
Hey, well, Tom
it's how to end someone's life.
Tom Aspinall gets the finishes because that's what he is. He's a killer. But Dana White, there's only one way to settle this. Get Vladimir Putin's security guard, put him in the octagon with Tom Aspinall, and let's see who wins.
Yeah, I don't think the security guard could sell a fight. I don't know.
Yeah, but Big Vlad can. Vlad can be his spokesperson.
Yeah.
He can be his Paul Heyman and sell the fight.
Let's move on. We've had this discussion throughout the last couple of years, Nick, but let's put it to rest. Who is the most underrated UFC fighter of all time?
Well, I've gone through the list of the entirety of the UFC fighters.
Because we've kind of put like a top 5 list together. We probably will do a top 5 most underrated of all time. But if you had to just pick one in the entirety of the UFC, who is it?
There might be some bias here because I'm a wrestling fan, but the most underrated fighter of all time is Brock Lesnar. And I know people are going to come at me and say, I'm so stupid. He's a WWE wrestler. He lost. He got absolutely mauled by Cain Velasquez and Overeem. But look at his average opponent. Randy Couture and Frank Mir, both former heavyweight champions. He fought Alexander Overeem, Cain Velasquez. He had 2 title defenses, 2 heavyweight title defenses. The only person that's got more than that is Stipe Miocic, who's considered the heavyweight GOAT.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar didn't have an MMA background. Yes, he was an NCAA champion, but he came from WWE, fake wrestling, came over to the UFC and became the heavyweight champion. I don't think that's like people don't understand how hard that is. They don't actually give him his flowers for what he did.
Okay, I'll say he's a freak level athlete, and we understand that. But the only reason why I disagree with you on Lesnar is because the heavyweight division has been filled with bums over time. And it to this day still has bumps. If it was doing this in the light heavyweight division, where these guys are freak athletes as well as well-established fighters, I'll agree with you on that. But the heavyweight division has been very lackluster over time and has probably had pockets of greatness. But again, I will agree with you. He did have a career and he hasn't necessarily been rated like some of the best heavyweights of all time, like how John Jones is right now, like how Randy Couture has received his flowers. I agree with you.
Someone like Cain Velasquez, who is a genuine fighter, was better than Brock Lesnar. I'm happy to surrender that. But even he didn't have a similar career. Like his resume isn't stacked up that much better than someone like Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's resume is very good. Then you add to the fact he was the biggest pay-per-view draw before Conor McGregor. His pay-per-view numbers are that like it's Conor McGregor, then Brock Lesnar, Daniel Cormier, John Jones. They've all called out they've all called out Brock Lesnar because they know that he's the money fight. He's a needle mover. You add that to his resume. What other fighter in the history of the UFC has that ability, has that on their resume to say, okay, they were a great fighter, they were a great draw. Brock Lesnar is one of the most underrated ever, and I won't hear otherwise.
Okay, I'm going to go through some honourable mentions before I select mine. I'm going to say Alexandre Pantoja.
Yeah,
again,
good.
because
Underrated.
Mighty Mouse has been known as the go to that division. Pantoja has cleared out the division almost twice over. I feel like he's got to be in discussions for the GOAT conversation of that division, of the flyweight division, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes up to bantamweight and starts making some noise there as well. I think Pantoja deserves his flowers. I will also say Michael Bisping. I love his analysis. He's on commentary for a reason. He achieved a lot in his division. He's known as one of the best English fighters of all time, one of the best fighters out of the UK. And, he won the title. He beat Anderson Silva.
Look,
Luke Rockhold fights. I think Michael Bisping deserves a lot of credit that he doesn't receive.
Not to take a shit on Michael Bisping, but he was very lucky to get his title shot, first of all. Then he got knocked out by GSP, or he lost to GSP, got choked out by GSP, which was someone who's a division below you. And Michael Bisping, like, he was always a 4th, 5th ranked fighter. He was never the top guy. He was lucky to beat Luke Rockhold in a rematch. He had already lost to Rockhold before, short notice fight. So Michael Bisping is a good fighter, but he's not level of Brock Lesnar underrated.
Then I'm going to my final answer. The most underrated fighter right now, Dracus du Plessis.
Hey, I agree with that.
Do you know why? Everyone talks shit online. He fights like a retard. Or
He's the best shit fighter ever.
Yeah, he's the best shit fighter of all time. And Rob Whittaker's had a go at him. Adesanya's gone at him. Guess what? He's beaten all those guys.
He's the champion.
He's the champion right now. And say what you want, he beat Sean Strickland in his own game. He outstruck him. You know, I feel like in this division right now, especially in the middleweight division, he is the most underrated. And to say, oh, you can't call a champion underrated, well, based on the sentiment online and the way that people go at his fighting style, the way that other people in divisions have, like Steve Erceg and everyone else, you got to give him his flowers. He's the champion. He's calling for fights with Alex Pereira. He's the one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC. And if he beats Khamzat, you have to give him his credit. He is one of the best fighters in the UFC.
If he definitely beats Khamzat, I don't think you can classify him as underrated anymore. But at the moment,
I said he'll be one of the best.
At the moment, he's definitely underrated. I agree with that. I like that.
Now, we're previewing this week's fight night. I think, the fight nights have been heating up. We just had Vettori versus Roman Dolidze. And again, some people were having a go at that. Was one of the shittest fights we've ever seen. These guys being that ranked highly in the division and putting on a show like that, people weren't too thrilled.
They're not that highly ranked. I mean, they're ranked, but like I understand people's like.
Or something. What, they're in the top 5?
No. Dolidze is like 10. And
top 10
Vettori's
fighters?
11. I think it was like 11 versus 10. But I think they're looking towards top 5 fighters now.
Well, this week's fight night, we're heading to UFC London. This was originally supposed to be Jack Della versus Leon Edwards. It has now changed with the main event being Sean Brady versus Leon Edwards. And we've got Carlos Ulberg versus Jan Blachowicz. Nick, how do you see Jan versus Ulberg going?
Look, as much as I want to back the Aussie fighter, Jan Blachowicz is one of the best light heavyweights in the world. He's obviously proven that he's worthy of being a former champion. Yes, he drew against Ankalaev, but he's someone that is still very good and still has a lot to offer. And Ulberg, yes, he's coming up and he's trying to take and dethrone him from this position and this ranking. But I just think Jan Blachowicz will be too classy and get the victory here.
You know what? Just out of the fact that I want this light heavyweight division to just spice up a little bit and be a bit more interesting, I'm going for Ulberg. Okay, I don't want another rematch or, especially with this spanner in the works with Ankalaev winning and Pereira probably next in line for a rematch. If Ulberg wins here, he gets the call for a title shot.
Nah.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He's probably next in line. He could either face an Ankalaev next or wait to see for the winner of Pereira and Ankalaev rematch. He's done enough. He's gone and he's knocked out some heavies in that division. And say what you want, Jan's probably the next contender in line as well. I mean, Yuri's had his shot. Khalil Roundtree's had his shot. Jamal Hill's had his shot. Why can't Ulberg be next? And I think he's got enough knockout power to get it done, and I'm backing Ulberg.
Well, I definitely think Jan, if he wins, could hold out for a title shot, given his age and given his history with Pereira, given his history with Ankalaev, because you got to think, he had a draw against Ankalaev, and then I think he had a split decision loss against Pereira. So he's very, very strong, and he's obviously got that background to say, look, I'm worthy of a rematch. Yeah. I'm worthy of a title
Well, say what you want. Jan's ranked 3 right now. Ulberg's ranked 6. So definitely Jan next in line for a title
If Ulberg
shot.
wins, they could swap rankings and then they could hold out for a title
That's what it
shot.
looks like. Now let's move on to Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. Leon needs a win. After that last performance against Bilal Muhammad, for his career, he needs a win. He's already gone on record and saying, after I beat Sean Brady, I will be calling for a title shot immediately after the match. I think he did enough in that division and with his win streak at the time to get an immediate rematch against Bilal Muhammad. But honestly, that fight just would not sell.
Especially on the short notice one. I feel like they could have had Leon Edwards fight Shavkat for an interim championship when that was happening. But Leon Edwards, as much as if you think you're going to win, you're going to get a title shot, Bilal Muhammad's already said you're not getting a title shot for 3 years. He's going to make him wait 3 years.
He's making him hold out.
He said, look, it's I get the decision here. The same way you made me wait, I'm going to make you wait. It's going to be 3 years before your next title shot. So I don't think that Leon Edwards, even if you win, you get a title shot.
It's similar to the last fight. It would be nice to see Sean Brady get the win and spice up that division as well, and add a new contender to the mix. But ultimately, I just see Leon being too good for this. I think he's a bit too well-rounded for Sean Brady.
In London as well.
In London, home crowd. I think he's going to do enough to get the win. I think it's Leon by decision in this one. But again, who would have a better chance of beating Bilal Muhammad? Sean Brady or Leon Edwards?
Well, I think Bilal's already beaten Sean Brady, so that would kind of put him. I put an
Honestly,
asterisk on that.
I think it was a better contest than what Leon versus Bilal was.
And then I think as well, Leon Edwards, with a bit of motivation, coming off a loss, I would probably put him to say, okay, let's go Leon Edwards. I think he'd beat Bilal with some motivation to avenge his loss.
Yeah, there you go. I'm probably going to have to say, and Leon has complained about the fact that that fight threw him off.
5 a.m.,
The
6
5
a.m.
a.m. time, he just said he wasn't himself in there. So maybe we're going to see a different Leon Edwards. And it's Leon Edwards that's going to put out a statement against Sean Brady.
He's spoken a lot of shit. Leon Edwards. I saw him on Helwani talking shit about Bilal, talking shit about the division, saying that he's going to come back, he's going to win the title. And look, I love the confidence, but you got to show it now because that last fight against Bilal was a terrible show.
And yeah, you can say, Ryan's just pointing out that, yes, Sean Brady's only loss by TKO was against Bilal Muhammad. But the fact that Bilal was such a one-sided affair against Leon Edwards, it was just a dominating, wrestled him to the ground, dumping him on his head.
Nearly broke his neck.
I just feel like it would be nice to see Sean Brady in the mix.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's always nice to have different fighters going for the title, but again, I want the best, and I think Leon Edwards is up there with the best. And you got to remember, he's only lost in the last 8 years is to Bilal Muhammad.
Yeah.
So let's all cool off. It's it was one bad showing. They were fighting at 6 a.m. I do agree with him. That was disgusting to have people fight at that time. So I'm giving him an excuse. I'm giving him a one-time outlier fight. You can come back and show your worth.
I'm taking Carlos Ulberg into Leon Edwards, and that will spice up some divisions.
Yarn into Leon. Easy money.
Okay, and last topic of the day, WWE. John Cena finally returned after turning heel. He made his presence known on Raw. Him and Cody Rhodes were under the same roof. The Belgium crowd was going crazy.
European crowds always are much better than American crowds.
Everyone in the arena was chanting, Cena sucks. He was standing in the ring. It was soaking it. It was getting to him. The guy looked like it was emotional. What did you think of Cena's first heel promo?
I thought it was a great promo. He established why he hates the fans. From the people that chant, let's go Cena, to the people that chant, Cena sucks. He had a go at both of them. Mm-hmm. He even had a go at a little fat kid in the crowd. Yeah. He made known to say, look, you're the problem.
Yeah,
I don't like you.
You're the reason for this toxic relationship. He called him toxic. And on top of that, he said he'd been the butt of an invisible joke for however many years, and he was sick of it. He didn't want to pander to the fans anymore, that he was a human being. And you know what? I liked the promo. I didn't like the gear that he was in.
Yeah,
But he pointed that out. He said, you want me to change my song? You want me to change my gear? I don't have to listen to shit.
You dress like me, I don't dress like you.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But John, please, you look like an idiot. Get rid of the attire. You're happy to keep the music. The music's got your voice on it. It's your soundtrack, whatever. But you can't be wearing jean shorts as a 47-year-old man.
Yeah, but
get rid of him.
He basically broke up with the fans. He basically said, this is why I hate you. This is why you've treated me like shit for the last 25 years. And it's finally my turn to do whatever I want. And I back it. But now I want to see a little bit more. I want to see him and Cody go a little bit more back and forth. I want to see John Cena get a bit more physical, like how he turned on Cody Rhodes on the night. I want to see how The Rock gets involved. It's going to be very interesting. Cody Rhodes just said, listen, it's my time now. You're old news. And John Cena said, you're just a shiny new toy that these fans are now going to turn on you down the line as well. So don't be surprised when it happens. I just want to see how the heel Cena is going to elevate. It was his first heel promo. I think it was a little bit rusty on playing a bad guy. You
don't see him as a bad guy.
It was just fresh and new to see. Entertaining. The crowd was crazy. I just want to see what's going to happen next week on Raw.
Geez, the merch sales must be through the roof if you can't change from the Fruity Pebble style shirts. Just for me, The Rock, please, just give him one of your nice cowl vests, one of your leather skin vests. Give him something to look cool. Corporate Cena, wear a suit, whatever. Just change it up.
Anyway, next week on Raw, it's going to be him and Cody Rhodes in the same arena. I just want to see. I don't want it just to be a promo battle. I want it to get dirty. I want Cena to have some jabs at him. I want Cena to go at his dead dad. I want Cena to hurt him, and I want it to light up.
We need The Rock to come in and talk about Mama Rhodes.
Yeah, something's got to happen there. But hey, that leaves us small. The road to WrestleMania is getting really exciting. You got Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk on this week's SmackDown. That's going to be interesting, and we'll be here covering it on Trash Talk. But that's all we have time for this week. Thank you for tuning in. As always, subscribe to the YouTube at Kairouz Bros and keep an eye out for the clips at John Bernard K on TikTok and Instagram. That's all we have time for today. Back to you in the studio.